liberty, and justice for all. Once again, let us remain standing and remember our troops that are serving our country that will not be home for Thanksgiving or the upcoming holidays. Great. Thank you. So the next meeting is the reorganization meeting, and that'll be on Monday, December 2nd.
I'll be there.
You'll be there? Okay. Joe?
You better be there.
You good?
No, I have to get my hair done that night, and just, I don't know if it's gonna work for me, but I'll try.
All right, 7 p.m., make an early appointment.
All right.
Now, the next, so the regular meeting, the regular Board of Trustees meeting will be immediately following. And then the next issue that we need to address is the workshop meeting in December, for January, which happens to fall on December 31st. So I don't know if anyone wants to come out on that Tuesday and have a workshop meeting, but that would be to Steve and Paul and Charles and Joe. You guys have recommendations in regards to setting another date other than December 31st.
What are the rules on how many days it can be apart?
You can have it whenever you want.
I thought there was
A
a
workshop?
certain-
No, there's no specific.
I thought a workshop had to be so many days before the board meeting.
No.
Okay. Well, that's good news.
We usually have it.
Can we combine
The
the
last
two?
Tuesday of the month is always the workshop meeting,
Yeah.
and the following Monday.
Right.
Yeah, you don't necessarily, like, Joe
Yeah,
said, you
can
don't
we just
necessarily have to
combine
have it.
them?
Or you can do the 7th and the
Oh yeah,
13th,
you can combine them or whatever you want to do.
or you can do the 7th and the 13th,
Let's see.
just for that month. Or the 6th and the 13th.
Whatever the board's pleasure would be.
The 6th is a Friday. That's 10.
No, January 6th.
Want to just make it one meeting?
You want to have a workshop before the regular board meeting?
Do that.
So that would be January 6th. Would we want to make it earlier,
That's,
6 p.m., and then the regular
What's that, the
meetings?
day before?
that'll be tough for me.
The 6 p.m. start? Okay. You want to do the 7 p.m. start?
I mean, if you want to stack them, I'm fine with that.
I'm sorry,
The 6th of January.
6th of January, and then you're saying have the board meeting a week later?
No, have them on the same day.
Oh,
You can make both meetings in the same meeting.
Right. Or what some municipalities will do is have the agenda, go through it as a workshop, with whatever, each person comes in, does their thing, and then just say, okay, now we're gonna start the meeting, like it's one meeting.
Right.
You're kind of workshopping just workshopping.
Workshop the
stuff.
agenda.
Yeah,
So the
And
only
you
time
could
we
do
meet
a,
would be the 6th.
yeah.
you could do a consent agenda following the workshop so
Yeah.
that all the things that you agree on
Right.
have,
Or take it off if you don't want it. Yeah.
we could do like summertime and have no workshop.
What do you do when you do that?
No, it's beneficial that we have the workshop,
Yeah.
especially with the new award. And
What if
Yeah.
we, instead of the 31st, what if we just do it the 30th?
that's a big week for vacation.
I'm fine with the 30th. I'll be here all day.
On here.
I'm flexible that week.
I'll go with the 6th. I think the 6th is better.
Both of them on the 6th?
Yeah, workshop it on the 6th and just have the consent agenda and run it one meeting. 7 p.m. start. You guys in favor of that?
I'm fine with it, whatever
Okay.
you want. I'm good on that. That's not an issue.
All right.
Paul,
That's where we
Charles,
I'm good.
Joe?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. 7 p.m. Ortiz. Okay, Ortiz. How you doing?
Well, how are you?
I'm doing well. Would you like to give us your presentation for the evening?
All is good.
All is good. Okay. All right, all is good. Great job at the fire last week, or 2 weeks ago now.
Thank you. Everything went well.
Right.
Nobody got hurt. No one else caught fire.
That's a good response. All right, sounds good. Any questions for the fire department from anyone? Okay. Mr. Fred Rella, it's a nice quiet meeting. Mr. Fred Rella,
Yeah,
do you have anything you want to contribute?
I can add something.
Okay.
Parking lot B. We did receive 2 grants, if you remember. It's about a $200,000 project, $70,000 from CDBG and $115,000 from what's called a multimodal grant. But the multimodal grant did not receive sponsorship with the New York State Senate. It was sponsored by Ellen Jaffe. So even though she awarded it to us, she wasn't able to get it through the finance committee.
Oh,
So all we have is the 70,000.
that's it.
Right. And in speaking with Charles, we're looking at doing that project in the springtime. Okay, but there'd be that incremental difference to make up. You know, right now the estimate's about $200,000 for the parking lot
Mhm.
with all the bells and whistles. Maybe you might want to eliminate some of the bells and whistles, whatever they may be. You know, like some drainage type things and the like.
Charles, could you answer that in regards to repaving of the B-line?
Yeah, Fred and I have had some discussion. The plan would be to put in get permission next month in January to generate an RFP for that project,
Mm-hmm.
go out for bids, get the bids back February, maybe March, so they can start in April. In terms of the drainage, we'd have to look at that. There are some issues there. We can see if what could be done to possibly cut back the scope.
Where does that drain go, the one in the middle of the lot there?
I think that all goes down Chestnut.
That shoots
Yeah.
down Chestnut?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the Orange Avenue sidewalk project. We were thinking of starting that this fall. That's the $320,000.
Wayne Avenue.
Yeah, Wayne Avenue, yeah. And, but we still have not received the Department of Transportation permit that's necessary in order to start that project. So, we should be receiving that in the next like 30 to 40 days. Could come in tomorrow, we don't really know. So we're just putting that off to the springtime as well. We thought we might be able to get some of the preliminary work done, but we can't even do any of the preliminary work until we get that permit. And that's the county who's responsible for getting that for us. Charles is working with them quite closely.
Yeah, it's a DOT, New York State DOT permit.
Yeah, and we have $285,000 in grants for that project, for a $320,000 project.
What's that
In regards to the Lot B thing, is there any value in contacting Senator Carlucci, New York State Senate, regarding it? Like, is it too late, or if they brought it up and passed it, it would go through? Like, where does that really stand?
Oh, yeah, that's too late, that's a moot point on that, yes, yeah.
$85K.
I wasn't sure if it was something that could still
Yeah,
pass.
yeah.
There was,
I'll still look for some other money, but the thing is, if you look for other money, it usually takes like
there was
6 to 9 months, 12 months to get everything in place. That would delay, you know, it's
That's
the
what I was
current value
asking,
of money,
if,
when
you
you
know,
really get it done, you know?
If we called
Yeah.
Carlucci, could kind of grease the wheel or something.
Yeah, yeah, it's New York State, it's hard.
Okay. Charles? We're just skipping around the agenda.
All right, so I'll just go over here. Just provide an update. One of the restaurants on Lafayette Avenue, My Mexican House,
Yep.
they have a blockage on their water service. So they're serviced from Chestnut Street. Tomorrow, we're going to be making a repair on Chestnut to, provide them service for water. There's a blockage. It's right.
Is that why they're shut down?
Yeah, the health
Health
department shut
department
down,
shut
yeah. No water, right, so.
Well, when did when did we get a notification?
Yeah, today, I mean, we were noted, Stanley went down today, met with
Yeah.
them. There was, I guess, going back a few days ago, it was a reduced flow. Took a look at it, and then just, I believe it was today or possibly yesterday afternoon, there was no service at all. So we're gonna be working on that tomorrow.
Okay.
Also on, let's see, Durham. On Durham, there's a blockage in the storm sewer. There's an easement that goes in the back of the property owners on Durham, and across Durham and continues on down in the back of Maplewood. So most of that easement is open. It's an open, a deep swell, but there is a section that, there's a reinforced concrete pipe, which is blocked with rock, stone or rock, which just, I guess over time, accumulated in there.
So where is that?
On Durham.
Right.
It's like the second house down as you're going into Durham on the right side. There's as I mentioned, there's a stormwater easement
Right.
that goes between the two property owners and then around the back of the remaining property owners on Durham. So what happened, I got a call yesterday afternoon from one of the property owners that there was water in this swell. When you first look at it, not knowing the history, it just appeared to be rather shallow, but actually it was very, very deep. It was, we're almost close to 7 feet in certain areas. That much water was accumulated in there. So we made every effort to try to pressure jet out the rock. Unable to do that because there's just a large accumulation of rock in there. So we're gonna have to excavate in the area. And either, we're gonna try to minimize the disruption on the pipe itself, but we're gonna have to get in there and remove the rock, and then of course either repair or replace a section of the pipe. So we plan on doing that tomorrow.
Okay.
Is that a water supply pipe or?
No, stormwater. Stormwater, yeah. So it goes from, there's 2 catch basins right there on Durham, and that's where just down from there is the problem. The update on some projects, the right-of-way improvements phase 10, and the right-of-way improvement project are both substantially complete. We do have some striping remaining on a couple of roadways, Foxwood and Hillcrest. That will be done hopefully within the next few days. Of course, we got the holiday week, so most likely it will be pushed into next week. And Fred had mentioned the Wayne Avenue project. Still have not received the New York State DOT permit. So essentially the work will not commence until April on that project. The requesting application for payment for Tilcon for the roadway improvement phase 10 in the amount of $391,896.53. So that's 391,896.53. And then for the, again, for Tilcon, application for payment number 1 for the parking at the Village Hall, that'd be $67,498.65. That's $67,498.65. Be making a request for payment for the 2009 right-of-way improvement work, and that's for Diamond Construction, and that amount is $151,999.06. $920 even. So that's 151,920. Be asking the board to accept the resignation of Mark Frisello. Also be looking to request the mayor to appoint, we did some interviews last week, Mr. Benjamin Price, he's a Suffern resident, to fill that vacated refuse department labor's position. And I think the last item here is the tree mitigation RFP. That draft has been completed, and Ralph DeMarco, it was sent to Ralph for his review. So once we get that final legal review, then we'll send it out.
So, Charles, you have someone in mind then to replace Mark?
Yes. Benjamin Price. Again, Suffern resident.
Okay, we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah. Okay, any questions?
Where are we on the proposals for pedestrian safety between the train station and the Sheldon? Supposed to get proposals. Brought it up at the last 3 workshops.
Are we talking about that railing, or what were we?
Well, that
talking
was
about?
one suggestion, but
Okay.
after each workshop, the mayor has said, can we look into that? And each workshop I come back, we say,
Well,
look into that.
Yeah.
So-
Unfortunately, I have had, just some brief discussion with Clark on it. We're just unable to get together at this point, but I'll try to reach out to him again and try to get some input from Clark on that. Did the board have any recommendations?
Well, yeah, as we discussed that, we should really look at, initially, I believe that we agreed upon looking into a railing that would direct the people not to cross the street, not to cross Chestnut from getting off the train,
All right.
and guide them up or down Chestnut into the parking lot or up towards Lafayette. So it would be like a, like a split rail post, metal, like a, what would it be called? Fence? Yes, like a split rail metal fence that would,
Okay.
Prevent people from, cars coming there and picking up people. They'd have to go up to the top or.
right.
Because it's dangerous underneath, you can't really see, it's bad visibility, that's the issue.
All right, I'll make a point to try to get together with Clark.
I don't know if you could update us on Monday? Maybe you
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
will have something
yeah,
on
absolutely,
Monday
yeah.
to talk about?
Sure.
Thank you.
And going to Hillside, I forgot the gentleman's name, where we had the right of way and we,
Oh, yeah, the
Remove
driveway,
his
that's
driveway?
done. Yeah, that's done.
oh, it is?
Yeah. So we did that last week.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's
very
done.
good.
How about the homes up on, what was it, Lancaster, that was damaged, or not Lancaster, Sagamore, that was damaged? Sprinklers?
Yeah, there was the one gentleman on the corner of Lancaster and Sagamore
Yeah.
that works complete. What we're gonna end up doing is, because the timing is such that we're at the end of the season here, we're into the winter, I'll be holding his money until we make sure that we get everything resolved in the spring. We really won't know for sure until they start utilizing those.
So there could be some
sprinklers.
damage.
Right.
I understand.
So we have the retainage, we'll be holding that retainage.
And the vendor's okay with that, or whatever, they understand the situation?
Yeah.
That was Tilcon?
No, that was Diamond Construction.
That was done.
Diamond Construction.
And did you inspect it as well? Because, when I went there, it was also the house across the street from him as well. I noticed that there were some broken sprinkler heads also.
The last time I was up there, I didn't see anything. I know we still have potentially some mailbox issues that we're dealing with. And that's, as far as I know, that's what we have at this point. But again, we'll be holding his money to make sure that we get all those issues resolved.
Also, I had sent an email about a week ago, I never heard back about raised manhole cover signs on Foxwood. What's the status of that? Was the work done regarding raised manholes or not?
Oh, yeah.
The signs are still up.
Is it still up? Okay, because I talked to Joe. and
There's
I
two,
guess he-
there's two signs.
Okay,
One on the
I
corner.
thought he got to, because we did discuss it.
As of yesterday, I didn't check today.
Okay.
But there was a sign on the corner of Meadowbrook and Foxwood, and another one on the corner of Maplewood and Foxwood. And I'd asked about a week ago, I never heard anything back. It'd really be helpful to get communication, so just throwing that out there.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, the Boulevard and Prairie, that manhole, that was sunk in forever. I know that we said we were going to repair it or raise it.
Yeah, we've been chasing our O&R to do
Right.
that. And there's a certain, their pavement subcontractor has a certain procedure that he makes those type of repairs, and it's not as intrusive or doesn't damage the pavement as much as it would normally. Let me reach out to them again and see where we stand.
And two other items, the 23 streetlights that are out throughout the village, that are in the portal, that have been reported. Can we somehow get them to expedite the repair of the lights? And then for our own sake, the light outside Electro Lock on Lafayette Avenue is out. It's probably the only one on Lafayette.
I had a question about, you'd mentioned that the RFP for the tree work, tree mitigation, is how, with the attorneys for review.
Right.
Can you give me an idea of what is encompassed in that at this point, though? Like what work is
Yeah,
going to be
sure.
presented? If it, all passes the muster.
Well, I mean, primarily, asked Ralph to look at the, for legal review and primarily the insurance issues and that type of thing. But, so we're gonna have a total of 6, let's see, I believe it's 7. Total of 7 tasks. The soil sampling, deep root fertilization, soil management, root collar excavations, pruning, structural support, removals, and the last item is tree risk advanced assessment, level 3. That's the seven items that are included in the RFP.
Charles, the crumbling handicap ramp by Suffern Furniture that I had mentioned to you, I noticed that it still wasn't fixed.
Yeah, the street department did do some concrete work at the end of last week, and that's an item that they will be getting to. You talking about the ADA ramp?
Okay.
Mhm.
Suffern Place and Chestnut. And there's one on Chestnut also that needs repair.
Okay, well, I know they did on the corner of Chestnut.
The other
Lafayette
corner,
there. Oh, the
across
other
the
corner,
street,
okay.
yeah.
I got you.
It's missing, I think the pad, I don't know if the pad is missing also. Maybe.
And
Anything else?
the decorative streetlights, they're all fixed now?
Except for the one. The one outside Electro Lock.
The one by the sign place, that one's
Yes.
fixed?
No, that's the one that's out.
That's the one.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Good, thank you. Okay, let's move back up to the attorney. Lance Klein.
Sure, thank you. So I was just communicating with Nick Ward Willis, who is handling both A and B, the authorization for Chazen Formula Phase 2 work. And I believe he had some communications earlier today with Paul. I believe there's some text messages back and forth regarding questions, but the GPR work was actually done today, be finished tomorrow. Drilling will take place the week of December 9th. The sample results will come in the week of December 16th, a written report by December 31st.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm just going back to my notes that I wrote. So,
I can give you all those dates again if you like.
no, so if they find evidence of something in the soil and we need them to do more investigation, but it's after the 16th, what happens if that's not complete and we can't close by the end of the year?
You're going to have to make a determination at that point. If it comes back with some type of contamination that needs remediation, we'll find out, and that's when you'll be able to make that determination. I can't tell you without knowing what it is they find. Could be something very small, could be something significant.
Right.
But you'll know that before the 31st.
We'll know that by the 16th.
You should,
which is our cutoff date.
yes. You'll know that by the 16th. The drilling is done, the sample results will take place the week of the 16th. You get a verbal report before you get the written report. The written report won't come until the 31st.
We have to make up our mind by the 16th.
Correct, yes.
So we need useful information by
That is correct.
And at the same time, I think you'd be able to ask for an extension at that time. So on the 15th or the 16th, you
Yeah.
ask for an extension from Avon, and I believe that...
Based on the results.
Based on the results, so you can make that decision, that informed decision, and then at that time, it will be up to Avon.
Who could say no.
They could,
But
and
then the deal
there's no
goes,
deal.
and there's no deal.
That's correct.
If you
But
so
but I
choose.
can't guess at this point whether it's going to be a little bit, a lot, or something in between.
I'm sorry, they could say no.
They could say
To an
no to an
extension.
extension on the 16th.
Right.
But
And then you
mayor
can
could
cancel
say
the deal.
no,
Right.
no
But we
deal.
lose our deposit.
No, no.
Okay, that's what I thought Nick said to me.
No, that's, no. If we ask for an extension and they say no based on contamination, you won't lose your deposit. That's what he told me.
Okay. That makes more sense to me, but
Makes
okay,
sense to
maybe
me
I
as well.
misunderstood you.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
okay.
And then the survey is being done, let me just see what he said, within 2 weeks, the survey will be done. Complete.
There was an email earlier that the survey was going to cost more than expected or something, or,
That I'm not aware
okay,
of,
it was an email from Nick.
from Nick.
I think it came in less than expected now.
Oh, is that
Or
right?
was it more than
I thought it
expected?
was $300 more.
$300.
Oh, $300 more, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it sounded like that, but
Okay.
I didn't remember. hearing the
2,700
first-
to 3,000.
Right.
Correct, it
There
was
you go. You're right.
3,000 was the number that I had heard.
Yeah.
I didn't know 2,700 was what the estimate
And I think that included the state.
The markers.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
was.
correct.
Included the markers. Rob, the other three were you handling?
Yep, those are mine.
Okay.
All right, so
Yeah.
we're gonna
Quick
take
question,
this, I'm sorry.
Did Nick speak with the bond counsel today? Did he refer to you any conversation with the bond
He did
counsel?
not tell me.
Okay, I received a call from the financial advisor and the bond counsel. They were concerned about the timing of everything vis-à-vis, there's three different things. One is the permissive referendum, we know is a 30-day period.
Right.
And we would know easily within any reasonable time whether or not that was a real challenge. And then it's followed by the estoppel period for the bond for a 20-day period, which in accordance with our bond counsel, it's almost impossible for somebody to file something and be successful with that. And that period ends on the 27th. That is a Friday, right? And the question first that we had posed was, what is close of business? Because we close business at 4. But is it close of business at 5 because it doesn't state an actual time? And the bond counsel advised that 5 o'clock is what is considered normal business closure unless you had something different in there.
I agree with that.
So on Friday, the 27th, we have to be here until 5 to make sure nothing
Someone.
comes in
That's correct, someone does.
that challenges it. If nothing comes in on that, that's fine for the bond stuff.
Right.
The other issue is, I believe it's called an Article 78,
Yeah.
which is against the sale or the decision of the board. It has nothing to do with the bond itself. It's the board's decision to purchase the property. And someone has up to 4 months from the date that the board resolved that to file that. And the only wrinkle that that creates is that if on the 30th, we were to close on this property, and let's say we're free of anything to do with the bond, we went through permissive referendum and estoppel without any issue, even if we didn't have the bond money in place at that time, we do have cash that we could put up, $3 million, to buy that parcel, and then get the bond money in January by selling the bonds in January. But that other issue of whether somebody challenges that sale, what that means is that, number one, we do definitely want to take a ban, because if somebody challenges it and it becomes successful, then it goes to a judge to determine what happens. If the judge determines that the board made the wrong decision or didn't follow the proper process, my understanding from the bond counsel is it goes to a judge, and the judge determines what would happen. You know, do you keep the land and then something else happens where you have to pay for it but not with bonds? Do you have to get the land back? Does the purchaser have to, the seller have to buy it back? Who
No,
knows?
so let me just address how an Article 78 works, because I understand you got some information, but the way an Article 78 works is if somebody wants to challenge the purchase, they have to be able to demonstrate that the decision of the board was arbitrary and capricious. It's not just, was it not a good deal, or they could have done better, or maybe they should have, started with a lower price. That's not what the determination is. The determination is, was it arbitrary and capricious? So for instance, if you had no money, you had no need for this property, a judge looking at this might say, what are you doing? This makes no sense. It's not just a bad decision, it's just, it's arbitrary. So I'm not too concerned that a judge is going to look at this and determine and judge the scrutiny of the board and say, they had no basis to do this. Of course there was a basis. There was a reason, there was a good business reason to do this. Lack of parking is one. That's justification for not just this village board, but any municipality in making a decision. Judges don't like to step in and make decisions, number one. Number two, they're not going to make that determination. What happens in a successful Article 78 challenge is the judge doesn't decide it, he sends it back to the board to reconsider based on what he or she determines was arbitrary and capricious. So for instance, if it was determined that the village had no money, was in debt, had no reason to buy this property, the judge wouldn't then void it. The judge would send it back to the village board with his or her determination and say, reconsider your decision. Now, in this situation, I don't see that happening. I'm not going to say it can't happen. Nobody can guarantee that. But there was a business reason to do this. It made sense. The board went through the steps to determine that. And then it would come back and, no, the seller isn't going to have to give back the money. It doesn't really work that way. But there would be a determination to say, okay, how are we financing this? How are we coming up with the money? Or did it make any sense whatsoever? So I wouldn't be too concerned. I'm not going to say it won't happen, but that's something that really is so, we can't make that judgment at this point, but I wouldn't be overly concerned about it because I'm almost positive this board went through a due diligence in making that determination.
And I don't think the bond counsel was overly concerned either. What he did say was that if there was something filed and that was known at the time that we go to issue the ban, in the notice of the ban sale, the opinion of the village attorney would state that it's there, it's being challenged,
Correct.
but you would believe that it wouldn't be successful.
Right, and here are the reasons why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it looks like probably what we'll end up doing, due to the nature of it, we have two choices because we won't fully know until the end of the 27th whether it's something, and to go to market and sell the bands, and then close on them by the 30th, having that where you really don't know by the 27th, it suggested that we do go ahead and buy it with our own money if everything's clean, and they would then have a competitive sale on the bands in January.
That makes sense.
Which would be fine. That doesn't change anything. It's just a matter of cash flow for us.
Any questions?
Are we aware of any challenges yet on the purchase?
We are not.
What is the last date that someone could turn in the challenge, the 30-day challenge for getting signatures?
It's December 6th, I believe.
Yes.
So that, okay.
So
So
there's
a
a
referendum.
December
And it has to be
6th.
1,400 signatures, 1,400
And as
of,
far as we know,
I should say 20% of the registered voters
Registered.
in the village.
as far as we know, nobody's actively gathering signatures.
I'm not aware.
Correct.
Frank, have you been doing anything?
I'm not getting signatures. Not this time.
Okay, so I think we're gonna take the action here this evening for the authorization.
I don't know if you have one for Shazen over there.
Yeah, I don't
Nature
see it.
twice. Yeah, nature twice, I think.
I have Chasen and Razor, so.
You did? Got both?
So the first one is Chazen. So I have the resolution to authorize the execution of a contract with the Chazen Companies to conduct a limited Phase 2 environmental site assessment at 37 Washington Avenue. Village of Suffern recently entered into a contract to sell with Avon Capital Corporation to purchase the real property located at 37 Washington Avenue in the Village of Suffern, commonly known as the Avon Nail Enamel Building, and designated as parcel number 5436-16.1, the property, and whereas the Chazen Company submitted a proposal to conduct a limited Phase 2 environmental site assessment at the property, as more particularly described in their proposal. Now therefore be resolved that the Village Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the execution of a contract by and between the Village of Suffern and the Chazen Companies not to exceed $25,000 in accordance with Chazen's proposal. Mr. Alpert,
Yes.
Mr. Girard,
Yes.
Ms. Hertzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hagen,
Yes.
I vote yes. All in favor?
Aye.
So the next resolution is to authorize the execution of a contract with Mesa Consulting to provide professional surveying services to prepare a title survey of tax parcel 54361.6.1. Whereas the Village of Suffern recently entered into a contract to sell with Avon Capital Corporation, to purchase the real property located at 37 Washington Avenue in the Village of Suffern, commonly known as the Nail Enamel Building, and whereas Mesa Consulting submitted a proposal to provide professional surveying services to prepare a title survey of the tax parcel, and more particularly described in their proposal. Now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the execution of a contract by and between the Village of Suffern and Mesa Consulting for an amount not to exceed not more than $3,000 in accordance with their proposal. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Steve, you with the motion?
Any, Steve, yes.
Steve.
And the second?
Second.
Mr. Girard. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So going back to
Let's just go
the
back to the first.
first one, I needed a motion for the resolution to authorize execution of the contract with Chazen. We already, I presented this.
There was no formal motion.
Right.
I just want to make sure there's a motion
I'll
and a
make the
second.
motion.
Mr. Hagen,
Oh, I got you.
do I have a second? Ms. Hertzman, any discussion, further discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. Sorry for that.
Thank you. That's okay.
Which one?
It's in there somewhere.
This, yeah, I don't think I have that. Near the top?
Yeah.
No, well, we can get extra web for you.
It's all right, I just was searching for one.
Wait, what do
So
you want?
what's-
Oh, I have it.
Yeah.
I have it.
It should be.
Okay, next up is Mr. Magrino.
Yes, good evening. There's really not much to talk about because these are public hearing, continuations of public hearings, so really take care of them at the meeting with the new board members coming on. I don't know if we'll want to vote on it at the next meeting, if they're up to speed, or could continue the public hearing, but we can address that at the public hearing. So there's really not much to chat about tonight on these, really substantively.
Okay. Anybody have any questions in regards?
Can we get the
Charles?
information on them so that?
Yeah, I can email it to you. If
Thank you.
Make sure I have your stuff.
Yep.
The one thing, I did speak to Charles, and I'll speak to Lance about this. Obviously, Charles is a member of the zoning board of appeals. Now, your term is up, correct? But I still think he should probably submit a letter of resignation on maybe December, it's next Monday.
Yeah.
I guess Monday, Monday morning, just to be clear, because you can't hold two seats. I think there's something about like maybe 4 o'clock or something that it's effective that day.
11:59, so 12 noon.
Okay, so maybe if you could submit it, even via email or something, just a resignation from the zoning board of appeals, just, to kind of cover yourself, that you're not, holding too long. And then, that's another spot that's up. And
Right.
because even if you didn't appoint somebody, he would arguably be a holdover, so.
If he didn't resign.
Right,
Right.
so that'd be a problem.
Okay. So the next is an update on the CSEA MOA.
So the MOA was provided to us by CSEA. We had put in a provision to protect the village, basically an indemnification and hold harmless with regard to certain language in the contract that we asked for. The union agreed to provide that indemnification. I drafted the indemnification and sent it back to the CSEA, and I have not heard back from them yet. So we're waiting for the union to get back to us on that indemnification language.
Does this concern any particular case or just a?
No, it concerns language that has to do with employees bundling together time that they get off and lunch and leaving early. And there's a provision in the labor law that basically indicates that employees who work more than 6 hours must get half an hour lunch, and they're not doing that. So we didn't really want to upset the apple cart. They've been doing this for years. I don't necessarily believe that it complies with the labor law, so I said if we're going to continue doing this, I want indemnification from the union. If an employee decides later on, hey, I didn't get my lunch ever for the last however many years,
Yeah.
union's going to defend us.
Sure.
They're going to indemnify the village, and they're going to pay for defense, meaning counsel. So they agreed to that. I just haven't gotten the language back yet. So that was it. That's the only holdup.
Thank you for explaining.
Sure.
So Attorney Klein, is it highly likely that we will not be voting on this December 2nd? Because our
Yes,
two
I have not.
trustees have not seen anything on it.
I have not gotten anything back from the union attorney or the union bargaining representative, so I can't imagine it's going to happen before that deadline. And that's it. That's the only, I don't want to call it a sticking point, but that's the only holdup there. Everything else was agreed.
Good? Everybody's good? Mr. Janito?
Yes, just a couple of quick notes for the two new trustees. You're going to get an official email for Suffern that it'll be your first initial last name. I don't think it'll be Megan Corrigan, but maybe Corrigan, Jay Corrigan would be fine, or Jay Megan, whichever you prefer. That official email is the one that you would use for any official business with the Village of Suffern. Now, there's a couple of things with it. First of all, it's run by Microsoft Government Cloud, which means that it's got all special protections in addition to anything else that Microsoft would provide. It has to meet all the federal and state requirements for security. It also provides for retention so that even if you delete it from your computer or lose it wherever on your side of things, it's still there in the cloud that if somebody had to get to it, they still could get to it. And it's actually, if you've ever used Microsoft Exchange, you can get to it from the web, or you can download it on up to 5 devices, phone, as well as the software, the desktop. At the same time, we'll be taking off the emails for our two very valued trustees that are leaving. And so, but it's very important that you use it for any official village business. If you use your personal email for any official business or some other email, that may be subject to FOIL and/or legal discovery in the event that something happens and somebody requests copies of all the emails between you and somebody else regarding a village activity on official business. So,
Not maybe, it is.
Definitely.
All right, it's not even a question. If you commingle your emails, go get your personal, go get your work. Same thing with text messages, phone. If you are using your own phone for village business and there's a lawsuit and it names any of the trustees in the lawsuit, go get your phone. So we really strongly recommend that everything be done, village work be done on village email, not personal email. Same thing with your phone.
so that's just by way of what we're going to do for that. The other things that I'm proposing, the first one is actually regarding the project for the road resurfacing that we've had in the past. And previously, we had said we would borrow, which we did. We passed a bond resolution borrowing authorizing borrowing up to $500,000. The road resurfacing project alone has $442,000 that was budgeted for that. And since there's such a small amount, and the fact that we like to keep our borrowing short term to one time a year so that avoids additional costs. Every time you go out to borrow, there's additional costs. I'm just recommending that we amend that project to increase it by $57,000, which is the remainder of the bond money. And if there's additional work beyond the Phase 10 that you have, Charles, related to roadway improvements, it can be used for that.
Yeah, it won't be any this year.
Well, even if there is some in the spring, but we'll be going over all your projects too, to make sure any unspent money that we have in any older projects, going forward, what we want to do is either use that money as soon as possible because it's been borrowed, or if it's unlikely it's going to be used in the next couple of years, then we might as well just move it over to debt service to pay off the outstanding debt as it comes due on those properties. But anyhow, that's the first resolution to amend that one project. The second resolution is very similar, except we borrowed $400,000 for parking lots. $100,000 was for the Village Hall parking lot. That includes construction and financing and so forth, and advertising and all that sort of thing. The other $300,000 is meant for the parking lot B that Fred had mentioned earlier. That isn't going to happen until next year, but it'll probably happen sometime in the spring, is what we're looking at. So this avoids, once again, going out a second time within the same year to borrow funds, and helps our bond anticipation notes come up as they come due. So that $300,000 will cover construction, financing, and other incidental costs. And that's we actually originally were proposing that project back in August, and then we withdrew it because we realized that there were some holdups in the parking lot B. But given that the timing of the borrowing of the money and the fact that it'll be done in the spring, we're reintroducing it to be adopted as a project. The third thing is establishing the position of village claims auditor. We talked about this a little bit already, but basically, if you had nothing else, every single claim, meaning a voucher for payment that came into the village, would have to be reviewed thoroughly by every board member and then signed off on by every board member. That's a very impractical way of doing things, and actually, there's an option to have a village claims auditor, somebody on staff that would, or a committee or whatever, that would go through and do that work for the village board and sign off. They would have the authorization to sign off on those vouchers and then submit them to the treasurer for payment. Sometime in the late 70s, is my best guess, or very early 80s, the village actually did that. They did have, but we couldn't find the memorializing resolution to do that. We do know that the practice over the last 30 years has been for the village clerk's office essentially to audit the claims and the village treasurer to pay them. And so what this resolution is doing is recognizing the fact that we have been doing that in practice and that we did make a diligent effort to look for the resolution establishing village claims auditor, couldn't find it. So this is going to establish that, and essentially the village clerk would perform the functions of the village claims auditor and with the assistance of the deputy village clerk. In the absence of the village clerk, the deputy village clerk would serve as the village claims auditor. And we actually have a third level that we don't put in here because it's not associated with, a signature on the checks is not supposed to be part of, cannot be the village claims auditor. But we have a process that was actually, our auditors actually like it. The deputy village clerk really looks through these things thoroughly, and then, as does the village clerk, and the village clerk signs off on it. It then goes to our senior account clerk, who takes another review, just to see if there's anything that she believes should be brought to anybody's attention. And she also signs off that all of the checks are issued as positive pay, which means we send a file to the bank, and unless you have a check with the proper date, check number, payee name, and the amount, if all those four things match, what we've already told the bank should be there. If it doesn't match in any one of those, the bank will reject it and wait for us to confirm that it's a good check. So anyhow, that's what this resolution is doing, is reaffirming the village claims auditor position, making it formal so that if state auditors come in and look, we can say, yes, we do have this process. The other two resolutions are for me to attend 2 training sessions. One is December 9th through 13th in Austin, Texas. It's at no cost to the village. I was very active in that association years ago, and they still express their appreciation for it. Anyhow, the other one is a one-day event in White Plains. It's a downstate seminar, December 18th. The cost is $98 for registration. The only other cost would be mileage and tolls. In Austin? Yeah. Everything's good.
Except the rivers.
The rivers.
I did buy, any questions for Mr. Janito?
I have a few requests, Mr. Janito. We're coming up on the midpoint of the year. I guess we'll
Yes.
close November.
November is the 6th month of our year, yes.
Yeah, so I guess once we're closed, would you be able to furnish the board with like a year-to-date where we are on revenue and expense?
Yeah, we do send that to the state, and you should get copies of that. When I send that, we send it by email because we borrow this money on the deficit bond. On a quarterly basis, we provide a trial balance and the balance sheet and the budget to actual on the level the state requires it. So we send that to the State Finance Committee, the House Ways and Means Committee Chair, the State Controller's Office. Those are 3, plus it all goes to the board. So I'm trying to remember if, so in early December we'll do that once we close November, yes.
Okay, so that'll go out and we'll just get copies. Okay,
Yes.
great. And also, we have the contract for Keenan Bean is the end of the year, I think?
End of December.
Yeah.
So, could we get a breakout of legal expenses? And I could follow this up with an email, but I'm looking for something along the lines of, you know, we pay for general counsel, what we have for, you know, any litigation, any labor negotiations,
Real estate.
and others. So, and I could put it in an email and make it clear, but
Yeah,
some kind of a breakdown there that
We
is.
might actually be able to run a ledger posting that we do, because I know that the monthly service bill comes in separately from the other bills. So, and I believe we also have that under a particular purchase order, since it's, contracted for the year. So, yeah, let me print out what I have, and if it's sufficiently detailed, I can send that to you.
Okay, and I don't know if the other board members are interested in getting
Well,
that.
anything that you ask for, I'll send to everybody.
Okay,
So any board member, I should say.
right. And then, could you do the same for fiscal year 2019?
Sure.
So we have some kind of a comparison there. And then, as long as I'm on the topic, Lance, if we could get, I know I was able to review the first quarterly bill for general counsel, but if we could get the last 2 quarters, and maybe, I don't know if, I know there's some redactions and things that you have to do to that, so, but I
Not
think,
for the trustees, we don't.
okay, I thought, maybe I'm not remembering accurately what the last one looked like, but, and I don't know, again, I don't know if anybody else wants to,
Well, we would provide it,
yeah, okay.
Can you also provide, I know there was an investigation a few months ago, a trustee, I was wondering if you could provide the cost of that investigation.
I'd have to ask for the attorney who did that, because it wasn't us. Yeah, we can certainly get you that.
Okay, yeah, and I don't know if that's, that's feasible in time, like by Monday.
I'll ask. Well, I can ask. Again, we didn't do it, so.
No, I was talking about my request.
Oh, your
I don't
request,
know.
no, your request, when do you want to play?
Is it possible that Ralph could bring it Monday to the board meeting?
My office manager is out tomorrow, so I'll ask her to do it.
Oh, okay, because it's a, you're right, it's a holiday.
So
You're right.
it'll be quick.
No, that's.
But I'll try.
That's not
I'm not
reasonable,
gonna
I forgot.
I'm not gonna not try. I will try and get it. So what you're asking for is the last 2 quarters.
Right, we're going to do the true up to the.
True up. Yeah.
to the-
Yep, absolutely. I should be able to get it.
Last time I tried to get it from like an AV and I was told to go to Ralph, so.
Should be able to get it for you.
What's that?
Should be able to get it for you.
Okay, great. That's all I had for, yeah, we were talking about treasure, so that was a tangent, sorry, because it was legal stuff. I'm good. Anybody else? I just wanted to review the recreation update. Kathy was unable to make the meeting, and the police chief also. Police chief had nothing to report. Recreation unit department is Small Business Saturday is this Saturday at 11 a.m. down on Lafayette Avenue. It starts at 11 and ends at 4. Midget Mountie Trophy Night is December 3rd. I think you all have this. Oh, you have it all. Okay. The Christmas Parade, December 7th at 6:30. Pearl Harbor, December 8th at 2. Dare Dance, Toy Drive, continuation, and the fire department, Santa visits the village. Is that you, chief?
Yeah.
All right. The 22nd.
It's a Sunday right before.
So everybody,
Yeah, it is. I stand that way for the king.
I know you do, I see that every day. I keep telling you, it's for kids.
I did.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to make a motion to go into an executive session for discussion of personnel. Do I have a motion? Trustee Alpert, have a second?
Second.
Trustee Girard, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. We will not be making any of the further decisions tonight. Okay, motion to go back into regular meeting. Trustee Alpert, second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion to close the meeting.
Motion.
Alpert, second, trustee Girard. All in favor? Aye. Motion opposed.
For the record, Mr. Mayor, were any votes held in executive?
No. Thank you, Moira and Frank. Frank, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, how many years?
6.
6 years, right? Good job, Frank. Moira, good job. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure working with you guys.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you on Monday. And everyone enjoy the weekend.